Are you tired of living on autopilot? Are you ready to start embracing your one precious life? Welcome to the Wake Up to Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Colleen Odegaard. Whether you've listened to every episode of the Wake Up to Your Life podcast or this is your first time here, welcome. Thanks for being here. Kick off your shoes and stay a while, won't you? Get comfy. What can I get you? An iced coffee? You want a little snack or something? I'd like a snack. Snack sounds good to me. I'm giving you a virtual hug right now. Thanks for being here. A few housekeeping items before we get into the show. I now have two sponsors of the Wake Up to Your Life podcast. Just so you know, FYI, my criteria for sponsors, I have to really believe in the person, the company, or the product, have a personal experience with it in order for me to talk about it here. So I have talked to you about Black Lion before. Black Lion is a home furnishings, home decor store in Charlotte, North Carolina. I purchased two gorgeous sofas from Black Lion a few months ago. Listen to this. If you need a sofa, Black Lion has a great deal for you. They say if you go into their store in Charlotte, find a sofa and you buy it, you can save $100 just by mentioning you heard about them on Wake Up to Your Life with Colleen. That's it. So just go into Black Lion. You're going to find a sofa that you love. You buy it. You'll save $100 by mentioning Colleen and Wake Up to Your Life. Thank you, Black Lion. If you're not in the Charlotte area, you can still shop Black Lion by following them on social media. Now to our new sponsor, the Bobby Sisk Homes team at Nestlewood Realty. If you're looking to buy or sell a home in the Carolinas, Bobby and his team are there for you. They can help you with all of your real estate needs. They even offer staging services. So if your home needs to be fluffed up to look really good for showing, Bobby can help you with that. He's got a warehouse full of furniture and accessories, just like you see on HGTV. So Bobby is a very, very, very good friend of mine. Bobby also helped us sell a home and buy a home. And he got us top dollar when we sold our home. And just so you know, he really painted a wall in my garage that was kind of dirty when we were selling the house because he said, "Oh, honey, I can't live with this." And he came over with a can of paint and painted a wall in my garage. Now, I mentioned we're good friends, but he didn't just do this for me because we're good friends. He does things like this for all of his clients. He does stuff like this all the time for everyone. That's why he's so good at what he does. So if you would like more information, you're ready to buy or sell a home in the Carolinas, check out the Bobby Sisk Homes team at Nestlewood Realty. You can go to BobbySisk.com. That's SISK. You can also follow Bobby on Facebook and on Instagram at Bobby Sisk Homes. Okay, we got through that, right? Everyone good? All good. You guys, this helps me justify my expensive little podcasting hobby with my husband. So I'm grateful that these sponsors came forward. It's really a good thing. And I love both Bobby and Black Lion. Okay, in this episode of the Wake Up to Your Life podcast, I'm talking to Sarah Colon Harris, the founder of She Flew the Coop. She Flew the Coop is a nonprofit that empowers women to step out of their comfort zones and discover their purpose and be in community with a supportive group of women. Prior to She Flew the Coop, Sarah was feeling really burnt out. She had dreamed for many, many years of working in TV news, and she made it. She was doing that. She was working as a TV reporter, but it wasn't filling her up. And she began to experience an extreme restlessness, wondering if there was more for her, wondering what she could do to lead a more fulfilling life. So Sarah talks about how she flew the coop, how she helps other women fly the coop, and she shares the question that you should be asking yourself if you aren't living the life you want to be living. I want to talk about what was going on for you when you left your TV career and you flew the coop and started She Flew the Coop, which recently became a nonprofit. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
You really went through what you call a process of unbecoming. Can you explain what you mean by unbecoming?
So I had always dreamed of being a reporter ever since I was a little girl. That's what I always wanted to do, right? And when I was working in television, in the beginning, it was very exciting and this is amazing and all of those things. And as the years went on and I started to move into the crime and court beat, and I was showing up on people's doorsteps, right after a tragedy, and it started to weigh on me. I have a lot of compassion for people, and the heaviness of that, I would go home and I would just feel heavy, burdened by that. And after a while, I started thinking, maybe it's time for a change. I also had a son and I was a single parent at the time. And I was reporting for about 10 years before I finally started saying, I think it's time for something else. And this went on for a couple of years, this stirring, I call it the stirring feeling of like, what am I going to do? I know I want to do something different, but this was my dream. So why am I leaving this dream? This was what I wanted to do. And so that just continued and it wouldn't leave me alone. I was just so restless and so full of anxiety. And I finally had to listen to that voice, that inner voice that was saying, just trust. I call it the voice of God. Just trust and trust me on this. There's more out there. And I took a leap of faith. I flew the coop. The idea for She Flew the Coop wasn't even born yet. At that time, I had created a video production business called Stories to Inspire. And I stepped out and this is where the unbecoming started. But I didn't even know what that meant. If somebody would have told me that 7-8 years ago, I would have looked at them with 5 heads, if they had 5 heads, what does that mean? And what I realized, though, in my journey was that I had to deprogram. I had to undo some things to move into the next phase.
So you mean things like expectations that maybe other people had of you, ways that people saw you, maybe even ways that you thought you were supposed to be, whether you learned them from family, from culture, from your colleagues? Is that kind of what
Absolutely.
you're talking about? Mm-hmm.
All of those things. So, in television, you're expected to look a certain way and talk a certain way, and you have to wear certain things. And so you're trying to fit in, but I was also the only Latina reporter, the only Hispanic reporter, honestly, I believe the only Hispanic employee in the entire building.
Wow.
I think there might have been one other. And when I tell people that, I tell some of my old coworkers that, they say, you know what? I never thought about that. I never thought that was your experience, because when you're in the majority, you don't think that way. But when you're in the minority, it's different. And so, yes, I was the only Latina in the building. And so there were certain things too that it was hard sometimes to maneuver in that kind of environment. And I had to unbecome that idea of I need to fit in, because I wasn't meant to fit in. I wasn't created to fit in. I was created to be my authentic self. We're all created to be, unique in our own way. And so I had to undo that. And then there were the expectations of, my family. They were so proud of that.
I'm sure they were so proud to say, yes, look at our baby girl here on television.
Our parents
say, I don't want to do this anymore. That probably felt kind of heavy to you.
It was heavy. It was uncomfortable. And then we're also, the television business, to be quite frank, can be ego-driven sometimes. And so I had to drop the ego. Well, what am I going to be, or who am I going to be if I'm not this girl? I went by the name Sarah Batista. If I'm not Sarah Batista from the news, who am I? Mm-hmm. It was like they were all one. It was like my identity was my job. So I really had to let go of those expectations. And then there was some fear, a lot of fear, because my son, I had a 14-year-old son, and all he really knew was me working all the time. And so now I was, taking a leap of faith as a single parent. So the stakes were high. The stakes were very high. Mm-hmm. And I just had to have faith and trust that it was going to work out.
So I want you to talk more about this. This is something that you deal with in all the women who've been through She Flew the Coop over the years, all these women who you're helping along this journey and having conversations with and teaching. And to the people who are listening to this show right now, you talk about that sense of restlessness, I think a lot of people identify with that. There's a restlessness. It's this feeling like, I'm looking at my life on paper and it looks pretty good. I've got all the things I'm supposed to have to make me feel happy, yet something still feels missing. And that's what was going on for you, where you didn't feel like you were living your authentic self and being who you are, who you're meant to be. So to people who are listening and have that sense of restlessness, is the first step really to get clear about who you really are when you strip away all those expectations and unbecome, getting clear on, no, this is who I am. This is my jam. This is what I want. Does it begin there?
Absolutely. So you have to start asking yourself, and I think this is the perfect time, Colleen. We're in this great pause with the pandemic. And if there's nothing else we have learned, it's that we have been given an opportunity to slow down and really evaluate our life and say, do I like the life that I'm living? There's a lot of people that are saying, I don't know if I like my significant other. I don't know if I like my space. I need to redecorate this space because I don't know if I'm going to be in here all the time. I want it to look nice.
Yes.
So we're reevaluating. Do I want to work from home? Do I not want to work from home? What brings me joy? Do I really need to be at all of these events and all of these networking events all the time? Or do I really just enjoy being at home watching Netflix? What brings you joy? What brings somebody else joy might not bring you joy, and vice versa. So taking that step and that pause to evaluate, what do I truly want? What brings me energy? What lights me up?
I think those are great questions to ask yourself. For anyone listening, to ask yourself those questions. You also say, Sarah, that something that happened to you and that you see this with your She Flew the Coop members, when you start this process of kind of mixing things up for yourself, that it is possible to lose some friends in that process. Talk more about that. Why do you think that happens?
Relationships change. When you change, your relationships are going to change, right? And as you level up, so to speak, in certain areas and you're growing, even though it's not perfect, I want to be very clear about that. So if you think you're jumping out or stepping out on faith in any area and it's going to be a smooth ride, think again. It's not going to be smooth, but it's fulfilling in a different way. And so I think as you level up and you're growing, a lot of times what will happen is people watching you, now you've become a reflection of maybe something that they desire for themselves, but maybe are too fearful to do. And so you might start getting some haterade, you might start getting the haters and some pushback or some jealousy or envy, but then you will also find your crowd, as we call it, She Flew the Coop, the flock. You'll find the flock, the people who are also growth minded and who say, yes, girl, I support you. I see you. Go for it. Like, keep doing it. And eventually those people will either they'll come around or they'll drop off. And it's something that you have to be okay with.
Yeah, you have to be prepared for that. And I know that this is the truth, what you're saying. I mean, I see this with people all the time. I've experienced it myself. Those friends who like it better when you're not taking care of your health, like, yeah, go ahead, have another cookie, or when you're broke, and then the second you start doing something good, and then they're like, well, wait a minute, I liked you better before.
Right. Misery loves company. Loves company. Truly.
Yes. It's about finding the right community of also, like you said, growth mindset people. If you're going to step out in this, you really need to be surrounded by others who get it, who have been there and can support you in it and truly support you, which is what I love about the community that you have created.
We are all about supporting each other and holding each other accountable. And, it took a while. I stumbled into She Flew the Coop. I stumbled into that community because when I left the TV station, I had started a video production business initially. And then I said, well, let's do a documentary. And I thought about calling it She Flew the Coop. And people laughed at me at first. They were like, She Flew the Coop? What kind of name is that? And I was like, nope, this is it. This feels right. It feels right. And I trusted that. And so the community was sort of built around this idea of, other women who wanted to take a risk in their life, and not just as entrepreneurs, but just wanted to grow and be better humans, better women in their communities.
Right. Not just starting businesses necessarily, just in any way wanted to sort of level up, as you say.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so it started as an idea for the documentary, which we've been filming for 5 years.
Baby steps, girl. Baby steps. You're getting there. We're getting there.
Oh my goodness. It will be, a long time coming when that happens. And then I decided in 2016, let's do a meetup group. So I was afraid, Colleen, that nobody was going to show up. I scheduled this meetup and I'm like, I don't know if anybody's going to show up to this thing, And fortunately, thank goodness of all the events we've had, we have never had an event where no one has showed up. And we've done an event almost every month for the past 4 years. And that first event, 30 women came. And so I realized we're onto something. Women want they want to support each other, but they need the space. And we were doing this in person, this was before COVID. So we were doing this in person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that group of women who you can say to, hey, I've got this crazy idea to launch a coaching business and a podcast, and who look at you and don't think like, well, why would you do that? Or that's going to be hard. Or don't you think you've got too much going on? Or that sort of low vibe frequency thing that I like to talk about, but really who are going, yes, tell me more about it. And I'm not talking about people who are just yes people. It's not that. It's people who hold your feet to the fire and tell you when you're, like way off track. But it's people who can help hold that vision for you, I think, really helps push you into a different direction. Let me ask you this. Of all the women who've come through the flock or who are in the flock, do you notice a theme of like what's, bubbling below the surface for all of them? Is there something that they all have in common that's keeping them small in their lives?
That's a good question. So a lot of people ask that because our group is so incredibly diverse. So we have all races, all ages, all types of professions. And we're like, what is it that's bringing everybody together? And I think it is this growth mindset, this desire to want to lead a more fulfilling life. But here's the thing about Flew the Coop, because people will sometimes say, well, what is the point, right? So we live in a world where you have these programs. It's like, okay, in 5 weeks or 7 weeks, you're going to get skinny. There's going to be an end result.
Yeah.
But what I have learned in my life is that you got to take each day in the present moment. And so Flew the Coop is really about leading women to understand that it's not this like point A to point B type of thing. It's like, we're living in this journey on a day-to-day basis. And so we're teaching them to learn how to be. And when I say that, I mean like every month we have a different topic. Maybe it's integrity or discipline or joy or authenticity or compassion. And these are the things we talk about. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to, in 9 months, I'm going to be from here to here. It's like, no, you're learning how to live in your everyday life and just be a better person.
Mm-hmm. And I would even argue that as you do that, as you learn how to do that and be in your everyday life and be in your skin and be in your body in the present moment, that stuff comes, that you do become a better version of yourself.
Absolutely. 100%. Right?
Yeah. Yes. That's a harder sell because people would rather join the program that says, have a, rockin' bod in 3 months. They'd rather join that program. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we want fast results. But if there's anything I have learned on this journey, there is no quick results. Like everything takes time. Everything takes time. It is absolute baby steps. Transformation is a process.
So true. Yeah. You know what I have loved about our conversations over the years is that you are very honest and transparent about how it is uncomfortable to change and you never sugarcoat that. And I like that very much because I think we think that something has gone wrong. If it feels, oh, this is uncomfortable and my pits are sweating and I'm really putting myself out there, we think that's a sign to stop and turn around and go back. But really, no, it's building up your tolerance to those uncomfortable feelings, because to move forward and to make change and to really step into what's possible for you in the life that you want, it's going to require a lot of discomfort.
A lot of discomfort. We call it at Flew the Coop, we call it resistance. And you're probably familiar with this. We think resistance is just a sign to turn back and go around. I see resistance as like, no, you're on the right path. So for example, if you and I have this podcast and I'm like, oh man, I'm nervous. Like maybe I should, reschedule this, or I'm kind of tired today. I'm not going to do it. That is resistance. But the moment you say, you know what, all of those things might be true, but I'm going to show up anyway. Yeah. Now, when you're done with that podcast, you're like, that was amazing. I'm so glad that I did it. And I'm just using the podcast as an example because let me tell you, I was happy to talk to you, Colleen. I wasn't feeling that way, but I'm using that as an example. When you actually move through the resistance and you push through, because it feels sometimes like you're having to forge your way through. Sometimes it feels that way. Mm-hmm. When you actually do it and you get to the other side, and I'm sure you're realizing this with every podcast episode, that you feel this sense of accomplishment, like I did it.
Yes. And that's the thing. Don't you find that with your flock members, that as they do the thing they set out to do, they're so proud of themselves. Mm-hmm. It feels so good to say, gosh, I wanted to do this and I did it. And even if you don't get the end result that you thought you were going to get, like if the goal was to, start this new business, but as you took the steps to launch the new business, it kind of morphed into something else. They're still proud of who they've become along the way.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, Colleen, it's ups and downs and ups and downs. And you just learn how to brave the storms better, I think, too. With Flew the Coop, the community, the women, they know that last month, or Maria or whoever was going through this, or, Colleen was going through that. Mm-hmm. And this month it's like, hey, how you doing? How have you been? And they hold each other accountable. And I think the community is the most important part, just getting into a space and having conversations that we never have.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yes, I think so too. And of people who really, where it's safe to just sort of say whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind. Mm-hmm. And because so many of us don't have those places to go where we're not judged and there's not some agenda. And so
I didn't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have it. And so I created that because I didn't have that. I wish. And I wonder too, had there been a Flew the Coop or something when I was taking the leap, could I have gotten farther faster? I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I definitely think that there's strength in numbers.
I agree. What do you want people to know about Flew the Coop?
Oh, man. Well, I would say my vision for Flew the Coop is to grow it into an international nonprofit that has chapters around the country. We had a meeting this week on Wednesday. We were talking about joy, and we had 125 women register for that. That was the largest meeting we've had so far, and that was because of technology. People joined from all around the country. So that is my vision, is that we'll grow into international nonprofit that will awaken women around the world and to really step into their voice and their power. Because I think empowering women empowers other women, and it just goes on and on from there. It's a domino effect.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. So, and lastly, for anyone listening right now who has that sense of restlessness or feels dissatisfied in some area of his or her life, what do you want to leave them with? What encouragement would you like to leave them with?
I would say trust your gut. Trust the stirring that's going on inside of you. Get quiet, get still, listen to what's your soul, your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit is trying to tell you, and push through the resistance. It starts with little small acts of courage. And courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. Courage means you're doing it despite the fear. Push through the courage, continue on even when it gets hard, and make sure you have the right flock around you.
The right flock. You need the right flock. You need the right flock. Some of those old flock members might not fit anymore, and that's okay. I know it's sad, but not everyone is meant to be in your life forever and ever and ever. I mean, some friends are a season, and we honor them. Absolutely. It doesn't mean we don't like them or care for them anymore. We honor what we brought to each other during that particular time, and now it's a new season.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
Happens. Sarah, you are awesome. Everybody check out the website. And I just love talking with you so much. Thank you for sharing your story and for doing what you do with She Flew the Coop.
Thank you so much, Carleen. It's always fun to talk to you.
Oh, Sarah Colon Harris, thank you so much, my friend. For more on the nonprofit that Sarah created, go to sheflewthecoop.org. They host virtual meetings every month so you can join from wherever you are. It's a great group for sure. If you would like to work with me, you can. I'm opening up some more one-on-one coaching slots for November. The best thing for you to do is go to my website, ColleenOdegaard.com, and click coaching, and it'll prompt you what to do next. Also, if you like this podcast, please subscribe to it for free and leave a 5-star rating and review. When you do that, it helps other people find this show. Thank you so much for being here. Here's to waking up.